and all this drama. And then somebody posts a 1-star review because they're claiming I didn't return their call. And I'm like, I keep records of everybody. So, I don't see it anywhere. I know what it was. It was some real estate agent, telling her buyer that.
Oh,
Pretty sure.
because that doesn't sound like you. I'm pretty sure you at least call them back and say, "Look, I have a busy week, but I want to get to you next week or something."
Yeah, I think what it was is the way we're doing marketing, we're keeping it active to highly motivate the buyer to get it to the finish line on some of the systems, and some of the systems is showing under contract. So we have just along the Front Range a half dozen different MLSs, and the agents are too cheap to join them all. So if they're coming down from Denver and somebody asks to show them a house that they see on Zillow, it's not showing it's under contract on Zillow, right? So they'll go, oh, well, the agent never called me back. It's your fault. Yeah. Caddy Beyonce's.
Oh, entitlement.
I am just gonna, I think I'm gonna not let it bother me anymore, but those bother me, you know.
I mean, you can only do so much.
I'm outnumbered. There's 35,000 agents in Denver and 6,300 in Colorado Springs. I can't return all their calls. I can't help it if they're late to the party. That's not my problem, you know. Anyway, that's my world.
Let's wait till the very last second and see if we can squeeze one in.
Right, right. Why can't I show it when I want to? I'm like, because you can't, because I'm not going to do it.
I'm not doing that to my seller.
So anyway, always drama.
Drama, drama, drama.
This is like my favorite platform to vent. So I'll be doing some of that today.
You never.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I will be doing that with bells on. I had some,
Ring a ding ding.
I had some poor young agent on the carpet this morning. It's like, what are you doing? You had a contract for more than a week. You leave the country and now you make it my real estate emergency. Oh my God, we want to do an inspection tomorrow. At 10 o'clock at night, he's texting and calling me
Uh,
on a
I'm in
Sunday
bed.
night.
Forget about it.
No, my phone goes to silent when I'm ready for bed because I have had people call me, even buyers call me at 3 in the morning asking about a property. And I'm like,
I've started leaving my charger out in the living room at 9 o'clock when I go to bed. I do not hear it. So
if I want to hear from my son, but I don't want to hear from anybody else. So certainly don't want to hear from some random agent that all of a sudden forgot to schedule an inspection with me. And now it's his real estate emergency that I have to participate in after hours. I mean, imagine if somebody called you, I don't know if it happens to Richard, but do people call you at all days of night and evening and whatever?
They do. And I have to say, it's annoying because I leave my phone on all night, up as loud as I can leave it, in case one of my kids or somebody I know has an emergency and they can get in
Right.
touch with me. I
That's the
do know that there's a mechanism for me to just leave it so that only they can call and others can't. I should get around to doing that. But by the same token, I shouldn't have people texting me or leaving me text messages at 2 in the morning unless it is an emergency. Is that happening a lot to you, Barb?
I get phone calls. I've
Oh my
gotten
God.
phone calls before at 3 in the morning from buyers asking me about a house.
That is crazy.
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
that's just rude.
know what time it is here? I mean, I I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I can't be, an AI thing available 24/7. I'm not going to do it.
Well, and you are incredibly available. It's not like you're hard to find, but when they want to do that, I mean, the other thing, how about this? I am certain that between 4 and 6 o'clock, when people send me something, a text message, whatever, they're doing it to show me what an early bird they are. And I'm like, okay. I mean, some people get up early, some people get up later. I understand as you get a little bit older, you don't get as much sleep. You wake up earlier in the morning, but you don't need to show to me what an early bird you are by sending me something at 4 o'clock that you could have sent me at, I think the earliest you should probably contact people, unless it's an emergency, would be about 6 o'clock. Barb?
Even then, I'm a little reluctant, because a lot of my clients sleep in.
Yeah.
There's some segment of the older population that sleeps in, they're like, we don't want anything happening before 11 a.m. I'm like, fine with me, I'll
Well,
be, but if I know they're up, I might text them or I'll send an email and go, is it okay for me to call you this early? I'll ask, but just, blurting stuff, just getting on the phone. I mean, I think probably in your case, they're probably trying to keep you updated with all the happenings, in the world, but
which is good. I mean, I've always let people know that do not assume that you're wasting my time by letting me know something. Usually, 19 times out of 20, I already know what you're sending me, but that one time that I don't know, I don't want you saying, well, I've been a nuisance to him, I'm not going to send it. No, I'd rather do it the other way around. But now that I'm thinking about it, Barb, you know what? I don't sleep very well because of my shoulders and stuff. And if I happen to get a night that I'm actually sleeping pretty well, I don't want to wake up at 6 o'clock, even, especially on a weekend when I don't have to. I mean, every 10 or 15 minutes worth of actual sleep I get, I'm delighted with.
yeah. Well, I know, like, Mark got woken up the other night. I had my earbuds in because that's what I do to go to sleep.
Right.
I'll put my earbuds in and watch really boring YouTube videos so I can go to sleep. And sometimes I'll forget, they'll end and then I'll go to sleep. Well, anyway, about 3:30 in the morning, he got notification on his Ring doorbell app because we have cameras and stuff. And not about somebody being around the house. It was, oh, it's going to be a weather advisory, high fire alert. I'm like, really? Why would somebody send that out at 3:30 in the morning? That's just rude. And so he was wide awake after that. So
That is rude. I mean, and that is the problem. I have found out that if I actually do anything to engage, I mean, if I just look at it, roll over and go back to sleep, I have to engage it because if I don't click on it, it's going to, make the noise again in another minute or so. So I have to engage with it. And every second I stay awake is a second that it's harder to go back to sleep.
yeah.
I had to do a show on this sometimes. Seriously, do a show just to lighten it up a little bit and say, all right, here's some stuff that just don't do. These are things that are going to irritate your friends, your relatives. I might do that.
Because,
Go ahead.
I think that those people wouldn't dare call their doctor at 3 in the morning or at 4 in the morning unless they were bleeding and about to die. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
Well, they know they would get charged for it.
There you are. That ought to be your ringtone. Instead of answering, you ought to just say, "This is an after all hours call, so I'm going to have it recorded and get back to me." But I should say that for especially after hours like this, it must be extremely important. And I do bill $50 per hour, which is a discounted rate. For that stopped people pretty quickly.
Yeah. It only take one time for me. I'm like, uh-oh.
But you're right. Doing it in the real estate world,
Well, and you know what? It dawns on me. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't call or send something to my kids that was frivolous because they're the same way. They use all the sleep they can get. It is just rude.
Yeah.
All right, now I got another show topic as if I need one more.
Well, I had a millennial teach me about the do not disturb button, but the iPhone on the Samsung, it works a little better, but on the iPhone, you've got to silence it, and then nothing comes through, not even what you want to come through. So
Right.
I don't know. There's got to be a way to do it. I'm just going to figure it out.
That is my thing, is usually that's my conclusion, is there's got to be a way to do this. Just because I don't know what it happens to be doesn't.
I believe for the iPhone, it's an additional app that you have to download.
Oh,
from
really?
the-
Okay.
yeah.
Huh. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, DJ. It's so smart.
I know.
It's called Sentry or Guardian or one of those terms. I can't remember what it is exactly.
I've got the Get Off My Lawn app, but I don't know if that technically can work for.
Hey, you darn kids!
That would be a good ring button saying, "Get off my lawn, damn it!" All right, I got a script. I'm ready to go here. David is good. Barb, you good to go?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm using a new timing system, so this should work out perfectly. And we will go in 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate, and it does it with Colorado's real estate authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. Sorry about that. We air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or search for it on podcasts like iHeartRadio, etc. Barb, what's in store for today's show?
Well, Richard, I get this question a lot when I meet with home sellers. They want to know what they should do to their home, what improvements should they make that will increase the value of their home before they sell it. So that's part of the services that we provide. So we'll be touching on that subject on the first segment. And then the second one is about inspections. For some reason, it takes up a lot of my time to deal with the other agents' buyers' inspections for various reasons, scheduling problems, what they find, what the inspectors find, whether or not what the inspector asked for is legitimate. So we'll talk about that in depth. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And then the third topic is the mistakes that agents make once their buyer goes under contract. I think you'd be surprised at some of these. I think part of it is that there really is no job description for a real estate agent. So every real estate agent defines their own job based on what they think they're supposed to do. And it's getting very interesting on what's going on in my world. So I'll share some of that with you. I think you'll enjoy it. And then the very last topic is how to actually get multiple offers on your home, even in this market that's relatively flat, not as robust as we'd like it to be at this time. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Barb, in this market, there are many more homes that are not selling. So what are the 5 keys to getting the most money when you do sell a home?
Well, Richard, look, kind of set the stage on what's going on in the market. It's not a full-on seller's market, meaning the seller has an advantage. That was going on from, say, the end of 2020 all the way through the middle of 2022. And then when the interest rates more than doubled, it absolutely had an impact on the buyer's ability to buy. So we've got fewer buyers that can afford homes right now. And this morning I checked and rates bumped up a pretty good amount, almost over a quarter, almost a third of a point in just a day. I don't know what caused it, but rates absolutely do affect the buyer's ability to afford the house. That's why you'll see a lot of builders, even sellers, offering a buy down on the buyer's interest rate to make it more affordable just to get their home under contract. So what we're seeing in some of the different areas around the Front Range, El Paso County values are gradually heading back up. The number of available homes is going back up though, and the average days on market has dropped a bit down to 82 days. In Douglas County, we've seen a flattening of prices. Right now, the median list price is $875. Average days on market are dropping though. It's a good thing, and inventory is going up. Now, some of that inventory rising really is seasonal. Here we are in April. Very soon, the summer is going to be upon us. So we're going to see more and more homes go on the market. In Teller County, prices are going up a little bit. Days on market are longer. They're 121 days. And I really feel like Teller County season happens, it peaks out in the summer when it gets so beautiful up there and all the Texans come up and they have to have it. Also, some areas like Highlands Ranch, we're seeing the prices kind of waggle up and down right now. It's down with the average days on market only 44 days. Aurora, the prices are slowly heading up with the average days on market 139 days. That's long, possibly because there's a lot of new construction competition in that area. So you have to be really aggressive if you're a home seller selling an existing home and competing against new construction. And that's the key across the board. If you're selling now, you must be priced what I call very realistically, or it is likely, even if your home price matches very similar sales, it could sit on the market because the buyers are looking for deals right now. And that means fewer showings, fewer offers, and it takes longer and longer to sell. But if you want to wait for that, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I've had some home sellers that just say, well, nope, I'm going to stay the course. It's okay. They certainly can if they want to. And it's just going to take more time to get that home sold. And what I see on the buyer front is the buyers kind of are sitting on the sideline, sort of waiting to strike until either the rates come down or the prices come down. I don't think the prices are going to come down that much. I think if anything, they're going to be relatively flat. And the rates could come down. I'm optimistic that that might happen, but it still won't be substantial. We're not going to see 3% interest rates again. I would be real shocked if that happens. So don't wait for rates to go back down to 3% because it's just not going to happen. Plan on maybe negotiating to get your interest rate down using a buy down by as much as 1% and budget for that. In general, consumers are pretty sensitive to interest rates, at least in the lower price points. I don't see that so much in the luxury market. The luxury market I'm seeing, it doesn't seem impacted at all by rates. So there are different things that you need to do to get the most money when you sell your home. And I think people will be surprised. Not every home has to be remodeled. You don't have to make it look like HGTV. I was in a really great house just this past week that was built in the 70s, and it wasn't extremely updated, but it was in great condition. That's the key. Buyers want move-in ready. It doesn't have to be brand new. It doesn't have to have a white kitchen with quartz counters. That's not required unless your competition looks like that. And then that's a different discussion. So that's part of what we do is we sit down with home sellers. We take a really good look at what their current competition is, what their similar sales are, and give them a really good idea what their home will sell for, plus some ideas on what they should improve to put their house on the market. And that's part of what we do. And photos, once it does go on the market, is absolutely critical. You can just as easily repel a buyer as you can attract a buyer with photos. So you have to make sure you get that right and make sure you hire the person that knows really how to market this home and has solutions for buyers that come to your house that have a house to sell. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And what we're talking about is how do you plan on any kind of improvements to get the most money for your home? Now, we can definitely help you do that. And then in the next segment, we're going to talk about some ideas to help you do that. If you are thinking of making a move, we have over 28,200 buyers just on my little website looking for homes. Typically, we can match a whole bunch of buyers to your home. And we can sit down and show up with cash offers. That way you have choices on how you want to approach the sale of your home. I just met with a home seller this past week. They're looking to buy another home, and I gave them a whole bunch of choices that made them feel confident going forward on what are the options that they have to make their next move. So all you need to do is call us 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
We're here talking with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and you can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. Barb, we're talking about how to sell your home for the most money. So what are some other things that actually increase the value of a home?
Well, you have to just focus on what you can control. There's some things that home sellers cannot control. Of course, they cannot control the location it's currently in. They can't really control what the neighbors are doing, although it'd be nice, but they can't. And they can't control whether or not it has views, or they can't change the floor plan. It basically is what it is, but you can control three things: pricing, preparation, condition, and of course, picking the right agent to make sure it's presented the proper way. It doesn't necessarily have to be updated, but a home does have to be what I call move-in ready. So I have a lot of home sellers that'll say, well, can't we just give them a carpet allowance? And that way they can use that money to pick their own flooring. Maybe they don't want new carpet. Maybe they want luxury vinyl or something like that. And yes, there have been some cases where a home seller put in brand new carpet to sell their home, and the buyer ripped it out and put something in right after they moved in. Okay, but you would have not gotten that offer if you didn't make the flooring fresh. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's what I see in reality. Buyers' offers, if you have any deferred maintenance, are going to come in exponentially lower than the cost to make that repair. I'm not saying you have to update and repair everything. I'm saying there's a couple of things that are key to get the buyer motivated enough to move in, drop their stuff, and then if they need to improve kitchens or baths, they can do that on their own time. But flooring for a lot of buyers is a deal breaker. I'll give you an example. I have a really adorable inherited home that's under contract right now. And it was built in the 1960s. The kitchen is in the 1960s. The appliances are in the 1960s. I think the dishwasher is about maybe 16 inches wide, but they all work. It looked adorable. And the only update that I suggested that they do, besides address any peeling paint on the outside of the home, was to pull the old carpet off the gleaming hardwood floors. And it looked amazing after they did that. They didn't have to spend very much money, and they got over asking price and multiple offers. So it doesn't have to be new, but anything that's broken or deferred really has to be corrected. And of course, pricing is critical. Pricing as well as the photos are your first showing online. Buyers are seeing everything around you on all those tech company websites. So they know the market probably better than most real estate agents. They know what's available, they know what they want, and they're going to try to get it if they like what they see. So you have to make sure that you price it right in order to motivate the buyer to just come see the home. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. Barb is your voice and the host of the program, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb's the owner broker. You can always reach her at 719-301-3900. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how to get your Colorado house to pass the inspection. Don't miss that. Wow, and you are right there, Barb. I like my new clock. Dang it, I can't. I've been struggling with, I know it sounds like, Richard, so your big issue is you're struggling with a stopwatch? Well, I haven't found one that works. I mean, they work, but it's on my phone. It's not convenient. If I try to get it on a computer screen, it's not convenient. And some of the ones that I was using, it's just it's a pain in the butt. So I found one that I really like now all of a sudden. So I'm a kind of like a new man. All right.
Hey, Mark. Okay. Oh, all right.
Oh, of course, Oprah.
Oh, did you go from Storybook and try to go the back roads? Well, and there's not really good cell coverage out there. It's terrible. Okay. I didn't get to the sprinkler guys. They knocked on the door, but I don't, Oh, they came in, did their thing, but I think they wanted money. So you have to tell them to bill us or come back. Yeah. Yeah. But I couldn't break away to, you know. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye. All right. I tell you, Richard, I have a Berna gun. Oh, I mute. How does this thing mute itself? I didn't even touch it.
Now I'm back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know I have a Berna gun? Berna.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was flipping my headphones around. Can you repeat that?
I have one of those Berna guns,
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
but it's so big. The thing is like bigger than an XDM. It's massive, and it's like, I don't wear belts. I'm not going to wear a holster, if I'm going out to these properties. So I bought some little pepper spray, right? And I go to this one property that's vacant. I have to inspect it every 2 weeks. Did I tell you the story?
No.
And I'm like, it's way out in the sticks. It's on 35 acres. It's miles from any other house. And I'm walking around. I have to take certain photos for the client, and it's empty. There's no utilities on. So if somebody were to squat in there, there'd be no benefit to it because they get shelter from the wind, but not from the cold, and no water. Um, so I'm taking pictures. It's a raised manufactured home on a basement. I go down the stairwell and there's this bathroom to the right that's been kind of completely gutted down to the studs. So I stepped in, snapped a picture. As soon as I stepped out of the bathroom, all of a sudden I could smell really strong, like men's cologne.
Wow.
And I was like, oh God, that's not good. So I look around, I don't see anybody. I peek in the garage, I don't see anybody. There's a couple of closet doors that are closed. I don't dare open them. And then I just left. But I'm like, the place has been cleaned out. It's been emptied out. Is it possible for somebody's cologne to linger for months and months like that? I don't know.
I
But
mean, hypothetically, but I swear that's my thought. I mean, I suppose it could be a ghost because I believe that those are real. I've had two close friends who've seen or experienced them, so I know that's real. And on the other hand, could somebody have been there like in the past day or two? I mean, it wouldn't seem
possible.
to me like it could have been there that long ago, but
Yeah, it was really creepy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming back here again, not by myself.
it's just
So
a shame you even have to think that way. And yet you're smart to think that way. I'm not saying there's any other way to think, but um, we just live in a world that this is the world, I guess. I
yeah,
mean,
but I'm thinking, okay, if there were squatters in here, they would have to walk for miles to get here. There's
is that right?
nothing around it.
Yeah.
And there's no cars, there's no tracks. I'm like, am I out of my mind here? Why did I?
Don't ask that question.
Okay.
Don't get us started on that. No. That's not a good idea. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, my
You know,
husband
the thing is,
took over that duty for me.
well, and the thing is, I just say this all the time, but it doesn't matter whether it's politics or cologne or ghosts or whatever. Nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, there's so many things that are going on in the world that if this were true or that were true, it would be something that 20 years ago I'd be kind of shocked and surprised by. These days, nope, not at all.
Well, there's been a lot of agents get killed, meeting buyers at the house for the first time. And they don't know them. They get called to go show the house. They think they're going to get a commission. So they show up, and they've been killed, or they've been killed at open houses where they're advertising they're going to be there. That's why I don't do them alone. You just never know.
Well, and I have to say that I've got a friend who watches a lot of these murder mystery things, 48 hours and things like that. And I think there's a steady stream of real estate people who, are on those shows because they were getting murdered by somebody. So I think you're wise to be cautious.
Yeah, I mean, in most cases, you don't have to worry. And I always think, oh, well, if it's a couple, it should be safe, right? That's the automatic thought. But in reality, that the gal in Tennessee, who was a mother of three, met a couple at a house and they killed her.
Wow.
I don't know why, but anyway, it was just strange. So
There is more evil out there than I remember being so naive when I was younger, and even not all that younger. I mean, 20 years ago, I was still incredibly naive. All right. I got a clock. I got myself. DJ looks like he is good to go. Barb, you good?
yeah, my
Okay.
son doesn't agree with the burner thing.
What does he say? Got to have a real one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
You
a
know
Marine.
what? He loves you and everything, and he's a Marine, and I get it. But because I go through that with my daughter. She's owned a gun since she was a sophomore in high school, and she's owned two for a while. She had a AR-15 22 caliber, and then she has a 9mm. And she made me sell her AR. Actually, I gave it away to somebody, and so she doesn't have that. She still has the 9mm, but she doesn't have it with her. She's got it at home in her mom's bedroom when in reality, she's driving around, Denver and all these other places, and it does her absolutely no good. And
She goes to one of the most dangerous YMCA's in
Right,
the
yeah.
state.
He does.
oh
She
my God,
does.
yes, she's all into swimming. So I forgot I told you that, DJ. So out of all the places in the Denver area that she could go swimming, she goes to a YMCA that is right by East High School in Denver, which is the worst high school in Denver, and it's in a horrible neighborhood. And when I tried talking to her about, Dad, you're so paranoid. You know what? I go with my friends. We watch each other in the parking lot and stuff. It's okay. Yeah, well, Jenna, it's okay until it's not okay. And when it's not okay, it's bad. And the thing is, her mom and I have offered to get her a membership. She lives in Aurora, or actually not in Aurora, close to Aurora in Denver, Cherry Creek. She's going to be moving to
Cherry
Lone.
Creek's a nice area.
Yeah, and she's going to be moving to Lone Tree, and we've offered to get her a membership someplace. Dad, that's fine, but you know what? If I got a membership and I went swimming there, my friends can't afford to do that. So,
He
you
sounds
can't
nice.
afford to get abducted and raped and murdered either. So,
Just tell her not to go alone. That's
yeah.
probably pretty good protection.
But I set out that whole story to get to the point where I think anything is better than nothing. So
Yeah.
if it turns out that a burn is not as good as a gun, I get that. That's okay. And if pepper spray is not as good as a burner, I get that. But you know what? You just have to have the best that you feel comfortable with. In fact, that's what Magnum says all the time. How big of a firearm should you have? The biggest one you feel comfortable with. I think
Makes
it's a good
sense.
policy. Yeah. All right. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and the host of the program. Now, Barb, many home sellers fear the inspection. Many people think that most buyers want to purchase their home as is, but what are some of the red flags that home sellers need to prepare for when they're selling their home?
Well, Richard, I'm going to set the stage a little bit just because I think home sellers typically are surprised when I tell them that in the state of Colorado, there's no license, no criteria, no qualification, no government oversight on inspectors at all. I could be an inspector. I've had landscapers inspect my listings. I've had the daddy of the buyer inspect my listings. There's no criteria for it. So these people are coming in, quote, judging the condition of your home and scaring the buyer away from the home sometimes. So I think the fear is very real in home sellers, but there are some things that you can do to kind of protect yourself and get prepared for it. And we'll be covering that in this segment. A lot of sellers worry about, oh, well, I've got an older house. It's not built to current building code. That's one that comes up a lot. And I'm like, well, you are grandfathered in because of the year built, unless you remodeled the house. And most remodelers know that if you're improving a home, like say remodeling a bathroom or a kitchen or something like that, you do have to bring it to today's building code. An example would be the GFCI circuits, those little outlets that have a circuit breaker that pops if they're overloaded. Those are required everywhere there's water now, and not so much when houses were built even 20, 25 years ago. Some of those houses only had maybe 1 or 2 GFCIs in the whole home. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The other thing I see inspectors do all the time is they'll say, oh, the smoke detectors or the carbon monoxide detectors are more than 10 years old. Well, the current wisdom is that they have to be replaced every 10 years. Well, I haven't read that anywhere. If your smoke detector and your carbon monoxide detectors are still working, why would you replace them? It doesn't make sense. I don't know where they came up with that. I don't know if it's some kind of safety guidance that maybe the fire department came up with. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't mean that the seller has to necessarily comply, and it could be very expensive. I just priced it out on a newer home where the inspector said, oh, carbon monoxide and smoke detectors need to be replaced. The home isn't even 10 years old. And so we priced it, what would it cost? And we got it from a relatively good quality handyman that's not super expensive. And he was saying per unit would be $50 plus labor. So if you figure a big house like that over 4,000 square feet, and you have to have a smoke detector in every single bedroom, every single room, that's going to cost thousands of dollars to do that. But the ones that are in there are still functional. So a lot of crazy stuff is going on with home inspections, and you really need an experienced agent that has your back when it's time, because many buyers agents, most agents, I would say the ones that sell, which is about half of them, only sell a handful of homes a year. So they don't necessarily have the depth of experience to tell the buyer, hey, what this inspector recommended is not hard and fast. You can ask for anything you want, but the chances of you getting that are kind of slim. But don't walk away from the house over that, because it's not really a safety issue. It's just a recommendation or an improvement issue. And there are all kinds of systems that get scrutinized. We'll look at the systems when we go through the house just to see if there's anything that I think will cause problems. An inspection is not the time for the buyer to get new stuff unless it's broken. But sometimes they will ask for it. So they're supposed to be asking for major system issues, broken things, health and safety. But I would say that term is used and it means different things to different people. So they'll say, oh, don't worry, we're only going to do an inspection and ask for health and safety, but they call everything a health and safety issue. So that's what I run into in advance. But the things that you can check, and you should check actually before you go on the market, would be the condition of your furnace and your water heater. I would look at those because those tend to be ticket items, and you're probably going to want to shop around to see if you need to make improvements on those kind of systems. You don't want to be in a situation where you're kind of under the gun to get to closing and you have to just grab the first contractor that comes along. Because I've seen wide ranges in prices, as much as 100% for systems like that. Sewer lines and septic can be very expensive, especially septic. I've seen it go as high as $35,000, $40,000 if the system has failed. And then it takes a long time to process it. So I would definitely get ahead of your septic system, have it inspected, submit to the county if it's required in that county, and make sure that gets done. In El Paso County, and I think Douglas County is the same, that it has to be inspected within 6 months of the property selling, okay? And you have to have the county look at the inspection report. Sewer lines can be very expensive as well. I would say 99% of the home sellers I speak to, when I meet with them, I'll ask them, have you had any problems or done any work to your sewer line? And they'll go, no, we haven't had any problem with it. Why would we do anything with it? Which makes total sense to me. If it hasn't backed up, why would you even mess with that system? However, they do kind of tend to get roots in them over time. Occasionally they will fracture. Some of the older homes have materials that will disintegrate over time. And so the latest trend, probably in the past 8 years, is that the buyer's inspector will come in and they will check the sewer line. The problem I have with that is these inspectors aren't necessarily qualified to do it. So if you have an older home that doesn't have a sewer clean out, I have seen inspectors come in and actually run their scope through toilets, through tubs, scratch up those fixtures. I've seen them pull toilets without permission and not know how to properly reseat the toilet and reseal the toilet. So I kind of had a, party foul on that one and said, no, if you're going to check the sewer line, you need to bring in a licensed plumber, because an inspector in the state of Colorado doesn't have a license or a qualification. They will get an online certification if that makes you feel any better, but that doesn't mean they're qualified to pull toilets. And most sellers aren't real happy when I say, how do you feel about somebody just coming in without permission and pulling your toilet? Most of them don't like that. Would you like it, Richard?
I would be, I'd be fit to be tied. I mean, angry as hell. What are they thinking?
They're thinking they're doing their job and protecting the buyer from the house, essentially, right?
Nope.
I have the other thing that I would check in advance definitely is the roof. So in Colorado, we have a lot of hail, and not everybody's home when the hailstorms happen. Most people consider that if your roof hasn't leaked, it must be fine, right? Well, no, if you get hail damage and it disintegrates some of that composite shingle material on top of the shingle, it might need to be replaced. You want to know that in advance. You want to plan for that issue. You want to be able to get different bids on roofs to make sure that that is handled properly. Because if you have to do it within the few weeks that take place from contract to closing, you're kind of up against a schedule wall and you may not get the best deal. And so just so you know, I have seen fights over the craziest things like appliances. So a refrigerator, a washer, and a dryer are actually personal property. They don't go with the house. The appliances that go with the house are anything that's built in, like say maybe a Sub-Zero refrigerator definitely is different than the standalone refrigerator, or stoves are built in, or built-in microwaves, or those kind of appliances are considered to go with the house. But those three in general, refrigerator, washer, and dryer, are personal property. So one of the things I started doing was putting in the disclosure, or having the seller put in the disclosure, that those are offered as a courtesy as is. So if they're left behind and they happen to break from contract to closing, the seller is not going to repair or replace them. But buyers absolutely expect it. I had one transaction last year where I had a huge cat fight over a $300 used refrigerator. It almost blew up an $840,000 sale. We finally got it resolved, but It is a gift to the buyer. It should be treated that way, but I see some agents go to the mat on the weirdest things. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how you can avoid contract failures on the home inspection. And next up, we're going to be talking about some things that you should do to pass your inspection. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're interested in selling or you want to buy, give Barb a call. The number is 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about how to avoid those red flags on a home inspection for sellers. Barb, what are some of the other home inspection issues that have come up over the course of your career?
Well, some common things we also see are decks. If decks are fractured or broken, many times the buyers will ask for that to be repaired. Occasional, we see concrete fractures sometimes. If the property has a well, they will, and they're getting like a VA or an FHA loan, the lender may require a bacteria test on the well. So you want to make sure that it's done properly. I've seen inspectors improperly test the well, and then I'll bring back professionals to check that bacteria, and it's just fine. So you want to make sure all those things are done right. And we can help you do that for sure. But don't be surprised if they ask for stuff. Many times the agents are asking for extra stuff just to get, quote, negotiating brownie points. And they know full well that the buyer's just asking, but they may not necessarily want them. So I've had people ask for new granite counters, new windows, all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be reasonable things that you would expect to still be working on a house that you're buying, not getting new stuff. And there are some crazy things that happen on inspections. They will ask the seller to leave their own home. They will, sometimes I've had agents go to the house, unlock the door, let the inspector in and turn around and leave. That's a party foul for me. I won't let them get by with that. There's been too many crazy things. They've sucked the wells dry before. They've torn apart pedestal sinks, they put their foot through the drywall in the ceiling, stepping around the wrong. Let me start that again. I've had inspectors put their foot through the drywall in the ceiling because they're stomping around in the attic in the wrong place. So at the end of the day, they're responsible for any damage they create, but it's best that we don't do that in the first place. So I have a solution for that. If you are thinking of making a move, give me a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the top mistakes that agents make once their buyer has a contract. Stay tuned for that. There you are.
Made a lot of mistakes in that one. I'll be right back. Stretch.
All right. You good, David? David's good. Barb, how about you?
I'm ready.
All right. Let me get a clock here again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this program. Now, Barb, most home sellers believe that they should leave for the showings. What are the top agent mistakes that agents do to home sellers, and how should they avoid having them happen?
Well, Richard, the one thing that I find very odd about the real estate industry, especially coming from a background and being in the military, I got to be an air traffic controller, I was an intel officer, I was a pilot. All those jobs had procedures, checklists, what you said, what you did. Not so much in real estate. It's really a low barrier to entry. It's 1 month of school, and they pretty much they tell you go hang your license with a broker and go sell, figure it out. And you can ask questions, but even then, my experience was my colleagues didn't want to share with me because I was their competition. So it's very strange. So there's no job description for what an agent representing a buyer should do, or an agent representing a seller should do. People just kind of copy each other and sort of figure it out. And so people naturally gravitate towards the easy button. At least that's been my experience over time. As an example, I had a house that was held open recently, and the buyer came to the open house, basically had me sell the house for the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent never has yet to see the house, but the buyer's agent wrote the contract. So how would that bother you, Richard? You know, that the agent representing the buyer never even saw the house?
That is a pretty big misunderstanding, misstep, call it whatever you want. That's not good.
Yeah, so they do that, or if they do show up and show the home, the other side of this is sometimes they'll point out flaws and defects of the home, or inappropriately talk them out of it. You know, you have to expect this day and age, when you go in somebody's house, you could be on camera, right? But a lot of them don't think about it. So they'll go in the house and they'll just talk away and they'll tell them their strategy, about, oh, well, I think, it's just priced high, or I think, maybe this other home is a better deal. And it's like, why are you there? If you're there and you're talking this buyer out of getting the house, what if they love the house? That's a huge mistake, because they're never going to forget how much they love that house. And you were the agent that talked them out of it. So I see that all the time. And my clients catch it on camera and they don't understand what's going on. Why is this agent standing out here telling the buyer that it won't qualify for these loans? Even if the home has a few condition issues that may not pass a VA appraisal, they can all be fixed. So it's astounding to me how bad the selling skills are out there. Now, here's a problem. Sellers want the sale to go through. So once it goes under contract, in the seller's mind, it's a done deal. We just have to get to closing, right? But the buyer has a half a dozen different reasons that they could bail out of the contract and get their earnest money back. No harm, no foul. They will have to pay for an inspection because that's a buyer cost. They will have to pay for an appraisal if it gets that far, because that's a buyer's cost. But the sellers don't have any way to get out of the contract. They just have to wait out the process and hope and pray the buyer comes through. And in the meantime, the world is seeing that the home is under contract. So if for some reason the buyer changes their mind and the house goes back on the market, the automatic default of what other agents think is there's something wrong with the house and not necessarily the buyer. I've seen deals fall apart that had nothing to do with the house. It fell apart because the lender didn't appropriately pre-qualify the buyer and they couldn't afford the home. It's only 2 weeks of school to become a mortgage broker. So there's not a high bar to get these things done. And people assume that these are highly trained people, and it's not always the case. So you just have to know how to prepare for it and make sure you hire the right person that's leaning forward and trying to pay attention to what's going on. I'll give you another example. I had one property that got 4 offers on it. And so we went through and called every single lender of every single buyer that made an offer and asked them my series of questions that I have to confirm that they actually are fully qualified, because you can get a pre-qualification lender that only means that that mortgage broker spoke on the phone with that buyer for a few minutes and the buyer said, oh, I make this much. Then they write a pre-approval letter without verifying anything. So I got one of those lenders on the phone and I said, so have you verified their income or their assets? Has it been approved through underwriting? Have you done any of those things? And the answer was, oh, well, we're halfway there. And I'm like, really? You want to tie up my seller's property up against competition and you haven't done your homework yet. You don't even know if this buyer qualifies. So you have to make sure that before it goes under contract, that your agent is doing some due diligence. So I just wrote out kind of this little graph of what I think the duties should be for a listing agent versus a buyer's agent through the course of a transaction. So a listing agent should negotiate the offer. Then once it goes under contract, they have steps to do. They coordinate title, inspection, appraisal. If there are repairs, we have to work with the seller, figure out how they want to respond to that. Same with appraisal. Schedule the closing, notify the seller and schedule the final walkthrough. And of course, sit down with the seller and make sure the final settlement is correct. The buyer's agent needs to deliver the offer, schedule the inspection, send the contract to the lender, order the appraisal. They might make repair requests. They might have issues with the appraisal if it does not come in at least a contract price. Schedule the buyer's closing and schedule the final walkthrough and then go to the closing, hopefully. Here's the problem. They don't necessarily plan ahead, right? So I didn't get any formal training on how to do duties on either side. I've done both, but I never got formal training on how to do it or what sequence to do it or some of the things I need to watch out for. It's all been experiential training for me and sometimes learning the hard way. So we're going to talk a little bit about what has changed and how you can set yourself up for success so there are no last minute surprises. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And what we're talking about are some of the things that agents do, especially once the buyer goes under contract. And we'll be discussing what you can do to protect yourself from the agent not really planning ahead or doing some things that you don't expect. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We know how to protect. We have systems and processes in place to protect sellers from any of those surprises so they know what's happening next every single step of the way. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can always reach her at 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about moving. So what are some other agent mistakes that can happen to sellers and what should they do about them?
Well, just as an example, little things like ordering an inspection. So the typical process when a home goes under contract is that the listing agent or their team is going to order title, and that will get the research done on getting prepared for closing, get the title company involved, right? And what the buyer's agent is supposed to be doing is scheduling the inspection. But I don't know what's been going on lately, Richard. It's just weird to me that a lot of the communications I have with the buyer's agent, especially on the other side of the transaction, do not happen during business hours. They happen after 5:30. Just last night, I had two real estate emergencies of people trying to schedule late inspections after 8 p.m. on a Sunday night. And how would you feel about that?
I would be a little bit angry that people couldn't just figure out that Sunday night on a weekend is probably not the best time to be calling people.
Well, my phone's going to the off button real quick. And you know what? I'm not going to be their real estate emergency. And I have systems in place. I'd already sent these notices out to say you need to schedule well in advance. Don't wait until the night before and just expect that you're going to get approval to do that. Plus, both deals, it was two different agents that did it. Both deals have been under contract for more than a week. It's like, where you been? You know, that's the next step. I can't tell you to do your job, and I'm certainly not going to ask you to do an inspection because I work for the seller. But it doesn't make any sense to me that everything is at the last minute. It's the same thing for the final walkthrough. In the contract, it's in our state contracts that the buyers are entitled to a final walkthrough prior to closing. It could be on closing day, could be a day before closing day, it could be 2 days before closing day. Whenever the buyer wants to do it, they're supposed to schedule with reason in advance. It even says it within reason in the contract, but they don't. They wait until the moment they're going to do it or the night before. It's always a real estate emergency. And I'm like, what, what are you doing with your time? Or my favorite part is one of the things that they do pretty often right now is they abdicate the whole process to what they call a TC. That's an acronym for transaction coordinator. So what is a transaction coordinator? Well, I don't know. There's no definition. There's no job description for it. There certainly isn't anything in the license law about it. But it's sort of like the agents created this new industry of admin assistants essentially to coordinate what they have to do from the time it goes under contract to closing. So in other words, I guess the theory is their salespeople, their job is to sell. So then they'll hand off all the administrative duties to some admin person. But that admin person is supposed to track critical deadlines. It could mean that the home falls out of contract. So think about this. If you're a home seller and your home is under contract, but oh, whoops, you got another buyer that wants the house, but they were late to the party, you could accept a backup offer. So if buyer number one messes up on any contract date, right, buyer number two could get the house. So here are these agents that are paid thousands of dollars to sell homes, abdicate this very important responsibility to somebody that doesn't have any fiduciary duty to their client at all. They're just paid a couple $100 to track deadlines and chase things down, which they don't do very well. And they do it at 8 o'clock at night and make it my real estate emergency right before it's due. And it drives me crazy. And so I've kind of had to create documentation that I share with the agents to let them know how it works with Barb. Because if the state's not going to regulate it, fine. I'm going to regulate it to make sure that there are no surprises because I want the process for the seller to be consistent and on time and correct and without surprises. If you are thinking of making a move, you want somebody that has your back. So give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, the discussion will be how to get multiple offers on your home, even in this market. Stay tuned for that. Wow, you are all over right on the money today, Barb.
I hope I wasn't too sassy on that one.
No, you know what? Nope. I think you call it the way it is. I think that sassiness is part of, it's just part of who you are. It works. What did you say?
It's part of the appeal.
It is exactly. All right.
It's like-
I'll be right back.
I think we'd be worried if you didn't have the
Yeah.
sassiness.
It's just like, come on. Oh, this poor kid I had on the carpet this morning. I'm a professional. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm like, okay.
Make it right.
At least he admitted it. But the other one's like, no, deal with my TC at 10 o'clock at night on your cell phone with a text. It's like, no, I'm not going to deal with your TC at all because their name isn't on the contract. You're off market properties. I'm sure you do.
All right. All right. You good, David? David is good. Barb?
I'm ready.
All right. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs you of everything you need to know if you're hold on. I can stop my clock. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at the computer and read at the same time. Reset here. All right. We'll try again in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program and the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, one of the biggest challenges for home sellers is that classic real estate catch-22 that you've talked about before, having a house to sell before they buy their next home. So how do homeowners get the highest price when they're selling their home and still know that their home is going to be sold?
Well, Richard, it's a common problem. A lot of agents don't have a solution for it, but we have multiple solutions. Pretty much with any property, any single family home in the country or townhome or condo, we can show up with multiple offers on their home. So that's option one. We also have other buyers that can help them take their equity out. We have different solutions for their needs. And a lot of agents really just don't. Their only situation is to put it on the market, hope it sells, or go make an offer contingent on their home selling and just hoping it works out, right? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the problem is that it really affects that person's ability to negotiate when they purchase if that transaction or that sale is in doubt. So that's the reason why this is an important topic. And actually, over 80% of buyers have a house to sell, and they don't know how to solve the problem because they need their net proceeds to buy their next home. And the best case scenario would be that they put their house on the market, they get it under contract, then they go shopping for their next home, and they're more likely to get a better deal that way. However, it's kind of like more of posting and hoping. Okay, we have a contract. We're hoping the inspection goes through. We hope that the appraisal goes through because Mr. Seller, I need my net proceeds out of it to buy my next home. There are some sellers that will reject that kind of offer unless it looks really good. Like I did close one recently. When they made the offer, their home was under contract, but they were past inspection, past appraisal, just waiting for a closing date. And that makes it a lot more certain than the whole thing being up in the air from the beginning. But we can absolutely help home sellers that have a house to sell by making an offer on their home so they can buy our listings without a sale contingency, which absolutely makes their home more sellable. And the problem with these contingent offers is you don't know what's going to happen. Last fall, I got an offer contingent on one of my listings selling. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Last fall, I got an offer on this listing I had on the market for a while. It didn't have any other offers. They weren't interested in the cash offers, which is fine. So they got an offer on a buyer that wanted to buy that home contingent on their home selling. Their home was not yet on the market yet. The seller agreed to take the contract just because they didn't really have any other choices. And that home was not on the market. So I asked the agent, so what are you going to price that home at? And the answer was, well, I don't know, but it's really pretty and it has granite. I'm like, okay. So we had to wait a week. So now my listing is tied up with their contract. They finally go on the market and it's priced way over market value. In my view, at least 150,000 over what I thought the market could command for that home. And it just sat on the market. So they did an inspection. Fortunately, the deal fell apart over inspection. It worked out really well for the seller because the buyer said, no, I want this and I want that. And the seller said, no, I'm not going to fix all these things. It fell apart. And then after it fell apart, the buyer wanted back in contract. So I told the seller, I'm like, look, the only way I would let them back in is if you know for sure they can buy your home. Let me get on the phone with the lender. Let me find out if they actually can buy your home without selling their current home. Well, the answer was no. And they were still priced way, way above market value. I'm like, you're going to wait for months for this to happen. So I recommend you don't take this offer. So we've got other solutions. I had another home seller that we have this program that's buy before you sell, where basically they have a paid for house, but they don't have the income to support being able to get a full loan on the house that they're buying without pulling their equity out. The problem with doing that is that if you do like a home equity line of credit, you have to qualify for the payment. So this solution is a little bit different in that you can pull your equity out and not have to make payments on it. You have a deadline to sell your home, but it just puts a lien on your house rather than a loan that you have to make payments, helps them qualify for their next home. And that way they can buy their next home first and then sell their current home. And it works out really well for them. Their only feedback was, well, Barb, you sold my house too fast. I'm like, sorry, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Do you, Richard?
Very good. Not at all. Not at all. I think that's a very good thing. Don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it worked out good for them. They basically closed on their new house first, and about 10 days later, their home sold, and they were able to get that, the balance of their money out of their existing home, and everything worked out fine. But it was just kind of funny. He goes, I didn't think you're going to sell it that fast. So anyway, the market's been heating up. I've noticed a lot more buyers making offers right now, which is a good thing if you're a home seller. So if you are thinking of making a move, that's part of the services that we offer is we sit down with you and we go over all the different options. We try to fit those different cash buyers to your situation. And then you can really have a good informed decision about what's going to happen next to make that transition. All you need to do is give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. I'm Barb Schlinker with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and we're talking about how do you get multiple offers when you sell your home. And when we come back, I'm gonna give you some stories and some ideas on how we've done just that, even in this market where the prices for home sellers is staying relatively flat and it takes a little bit more time to get a buyer. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and you can reach her at 719-301-3900. We're talking with Barb about how home sellers can trade up to a new home and what are some solutions that you have for people who need to sell a house first before they buy their next home. Barb?
Well, I would say first call us because we have lots of solutions. They're all different solutions. And it depends on your situation, how much equity you have, what your goals are, when you want to buy. And we can definitely tap into all of our resources to help you actually get the most money when you sell. And if you don't have to buy your next home first, or even if you don't have to sell the home to buy your next home first, that's of course the best situation, because I have had clients that went and bought their next home first, and then they're able to take their time selling. That's absolutely the lowest stress point when you're making that transition. But part of what we do is we offer a guaranteed sale price, 100% of market value, or we'll pay the difference. We also have multiple offers that we can present to you. And what we do is we just sit down, we show you all the options, we give you an idea on exactly how much you'll put in your pocket when it sells with each situation, so you can make a good informed decision about what you're going to do. Hang on a second. Oh, I'm sorry. That I forgot I turned on that software. And it will make a noise. So, okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, so that's one thing. So how do we get multiple offers? First of all, it's all about positioning the home to be the most desirable home on the block in that price range, in that type of situation. I will tell you that it doesn't matter if it's a remodeled home or not a remodeled home. It's all about, are you the best home in that situation, in that price range? In general, if you position the home to be the most attractive one, you're going to get multiple offers. We just had a house that we put under contract in a nice, very popular neighborhood, and it was priced well below market. And the reason was that it does have some condition issues. They're smokers, it needs carpet and paint. So not everybody is going to go for that, but they priced it well enough that we got a huge crowd at the open house. Over 70 people came through that 1-hour open house. And we were able to get 4 offers, and we put it under contract full price on a buyer that's willing to take on those repairs just to be in that neighborhood. So it's all about positioning the home to get the most money. Had we put it at a higher price and let the market decide, they would, first of all, a lot of buyers wouldn't have gone to see it. Second of all, buyers would have been picking it apart and saying, oh, it needs this, or it needs that, and it would just sat on the market and slowly walk the price down. So the way we did it, we went on the market at a very aggressive price and motivated all the buyers to make their best offer should they decide to make an offer on a home like that. On the other end of the spectrum, we did a similar thing on a higher priced home. This home had been remodeled. It's in beautiful shape. But they didn't overprice it. That's the key. And we're able to get a large amount over asking price because multiple people wanted that home. That's the way you do it. We know exactly how to do it, and we can help our home sellers do just that. Just give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Caught me with my headphones going from one side of my head to the other. 3, 2, 1. Barb, you and your team are the only ones that I would recommend to people out there who are thinking of selling their homes and downsizing, perhaps to a smaller home, to reach Barb. The number is 719-301-3900. Barb, you're host of the program. Time for your hot new listings. What do you have?
I have a really beautiful tri-level coming up on Quiet Circle. This home is priced at $385. It backs to a park. It's got fresh carpet, great family home in superb condition. We'll be featuring that one this weekend. Also have a beautiful townhome up by Interquest Parkway, not too far from In-N-Out hamburger place that seems to always be packed. Great location, lots of restaurants there in the upper threes. Also a beautiful ranch on nearly an acre with gorgeous views up in Divide at $399.9. A stunning rancher down in Fountain priced at $529 with a 3-car garage in beautiful condition. We have a remodeled home on the west side. The west side's very popular in the low fours on Willamette. An amazing home in Pueblo on Royal Troon. This is in a very, very popular neighborhood in Pueblo in the mid to upper fives in great condition. We have a beautiful 2-story with a 3-car garage that backs to open space on Beckham Street in Peyton in the low fives. And I'm having house envy on this one, a spectacular home on Open Sky Way in very prestigious High Forest Ranch. This gorgeous home is over 7,000 square feet of absolute luxury. So if you want to take a look at those, give us a call at 719-301-3900. And we've got more amazing homes coming up, 2 actually in the Broadmoor and 1 in Woodland Park. Just call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program and the owner broker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or just visit barbhasthebuyers.com. That'll do it for this week. Look forward to talking to you next week, Barb.
Have a great weekend.
Boom.
All right. Should we say Happy Easter? Is that allowed?
I think so. He's going to go back for a second here. 3, 2, 1. That'll do it for this week. Barb, you and your friends, your family, have a great Easter.
Thank you. Happy Easter to you.
Talk next week. I like that better. I mean, when